tonight the vaccine reality is hitting us, each one of us, very, very hard. Many centers for vaccination are closing down, announcement coming from many parts of the country, and many governments having to shut down these vaccination centers simply because there aren't enough vaccinations that can be given out in these centers. Supplies are low. Stocks for the states are depleting, and now vaccination in the age group for 18 to 44 is becoming a virtual nightmare. Many states have decided to prioritize the 45 plus group jabs, as many in the group would need the second jabs, and therefore they have to be given the priority, because if they don't take the jab within 6 to 8 weeks after the first one, then the first one also goes waste. So that seems to be the priority. On the Newshour tonight, we will take a close look at the numbers just to make sure that the powers that be will be watching this to take immediate emergency measures to shield India. As of tonight, we know that there will be a maximum of 8.5 crore doses of vaccines in the month of May, out of which only 2 crores will be allocated for the group of 18 to 44 years. And as far as distribution is concerned, 50% of these doses will be acquired by the center, 25% by states, and 25% by private hospitals. Now, states, 29 of them get 25%. Now, here's where the real catch is. The 2 crore doses for the group of 18 to 44 ages is meant for 29 states and union territories. And if you distribute these amongst all of these states and UTs, then just a few lakh doses for the 18 to 44 age group will be available in each of these states. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the brutal reality when we are trying to inoculate close to 60 crore people who fall in this age group. This that we were calling the historical human resource dividend that India has will have less than 2 crore vaccines for this age group, where the population is almost 60 crore people. And you need at least 120 crore vaccines for this age group. At this rate, let's forget vaccinating our adult population even in the next 2 years, unless supplies are ramped up. Now let's dive deeper into the numbers. In the important age segment of 18 to 44, as of now, 1.87 crore people have been inoculated. In the first reading, it's misleading because this represents the health workers, doctors, and COVID warriors too. So this is not the armed janta. These include everybody in this age group, not just the ones who have got their jabs after May 1st. So imagine, ladies and gentlemen, we have just a very, very, very long way to go if we have to inoculate this segment, which is key to breaking the chain, and that transmission chain that is looking so scary right now across the country. Now, this graph sums up India's story. The slump that we have seen in the rate of vaccinations is actually detrimental for India's fight against COVID. Excuse me. And as the duration gets longer and longer in vaccinating our population, we have longer and longer lockdowns and a system where kids can't go to schools or colleges, or you can't go to your workplace. And that's where we are standing at the crossroads. Excuse me. Finally, it boils down to our political class. Every neta across the board has let India down, and that's the real truth. Well, even tonight as we speak, the ruling party and the opposition are at loggerheads. Each side is shifting the blame on the other. Mamata Banerjee writing a letter in February asking for a decentralized vaccination policy, and today all opposition writing a letter saying that the center should come back into procurement. You know, that is the kind of to and fro and politics that's happened on the issue of vaccine. Everybody seems to have abdicated responsibility, and the center, under pressure of populism, call it pressure of political parties from states, has decided every state needs to go out and fend for itself. Does it really work? Can Gujarat and Maharashtra fight against each other's interests in the global markets? And who are the global markets going to as a priority customer? We don't know. So are Gujaratis or people living in Gujarat going to be a notch higher than those living in Maharashtra? And what? And what if the producing countries, the producing factories actually begin to charge the moon because there are so many people going out there to negotiate instead of one India trying to negotiate for a vaccine? Well, on both sides, rigid political walls have come up, but the legitimate question on the Newshour tonight is just one. Can the centre now be a mute spectator in the vaccination policy? That's the question, and that's the debate coming up on the other side.
You're watching the Newshour at 9. Debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
And joining me tonight, Gaurav Bhatia, National Spokesperson of the BJP, joining the panel. Also joining me tonight is Mohan Das Pai, Chairman of the Asian Capital Partners Limited, and Dr. Rajiv Das Gupta. He's the member of the National, he's the member of the ARI and chairperson of the Center for Social Medicine and Community Healing. We also have Dr. Suman Sriraman, Dr. G.C. Khilnani, Chairman of PSRI, Riju Dutta, spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress. And let me first put out these tweets that have just been put out by the Prime Minister's office. And these tweets actually tell you the story. And ladies and gentlemen, these tweets on your screen tell you the various contradictions that we have seen. Now look at this. Today, we have these tweets which say that Mamata Banerjee, Sitaram Yechuri, Sonia Gandhi, all opposition leaders have written a letter to the Prime Minister asking for help on the vaccination front. But all of them have asked something different in the previous times, in the previous weeks. In fact, Rahul Gandhi did not have any faith in the Indian vaccination system. Manish Tiwari said Covaxin should not be used because we don't know they are using Indians as guinea pigs. And they said, today they are asking for ramping up production. Well, how do you ramp up when you didn't have any trust? How is the producer going to make so many more vaccines when there are no buyers? That's the question. And that's the question I want to ask Mr. Riju Dutta. Mr. Riju Dutta, it's all very well. And even we here stand, I mean, political blame game is not all, but we all have to think logically. In February, Mamata Didi asked for a decentralized vaccination policy and that the state had decided that she wants to buy vaccinations on her own. Then why is she writing a letter today to the Prime Minister asking the Prime Minister to do a central procurement for vaccines? Why is every state blaming the centre for the availability? Because the centre had said let's keep it to the 45 plus age group because that's the kind of vaccination quantity that we have. Why, Riju Dutta, is everything part of politics?
Navika ji, to answer you, I'll give you some numbers. Today, Bengal vaccinated 1,63,627 people, which is the third highest after Maharashtra and Uttar Pradesh. We vaccinated journalists, transport workers, and street vendors who are direct contact with the public. This is called, keeping a promise. Now, the most important number is after 4 months of vaccination drive, barely 3% of the entire population of the country is vaccinated. And due to vaccine shortage, the vaccination drive has fallen by 90%. Now, there are a lot of doctors in this panel. The biggest aspect here is at the rate at which vaccination is being done in this country now, the entire country probably will be vaccinated when we are in the 4th or the 5th wave. And that will give coronavirus enough time to mutate into a variant that can beat vaccine immunity, that can be vaccine resistant. That is the bigger picture here. And that is why Mamata Banerjee also today wrote a letter saying, open up global tenders from any manufacturers who have the efficacy report to import our vaccines because this is the only line of defense we have against this virus. And if needed, we will give land in Bengal for them to put a plant here. The bottom line is there is a huge shortage of vaccine. There is no vaccine. We are only inoculating people above 45 because we have to give them the second dose. And there are only 2 manufacturers. The central government, this buck needs to stop, and this buck needs to stop right at the very top. The central government, what they're doing is damage control. They are doing their work now, but why damage control? Why didn't you have a strategy or a master plan right at the onset? When you were beating your chest saying that you have defeated COVID, you should have thought about it at that time. That is the point here, Navika ji. Our country is not getting vaccinated.
So Riju Dutta, you are saying that the entire thinking, planning, strategizing was the centre's duty, yet you wanted decentralization. You have to be on one side. Do you want it decentralized, or do you think it was a mistake to ask for decentralization? Please explain to the viewer, because the viewer is confused. What do you want?
Ma'am, on 24th of February, before even Bengal went into force, because it was such a mass event, we asked for vaccines from the central government. Why? And we also said we will directly buy it from the manufacturers from our own state exchequer. Why did the PMO deny us then? And then when they launched this decentralized scheme, why there is a price disparity? Why the indigenous vaccines are more expensive in India and sold at a cheaper price in international markets? These questions also need to be asked to the central government. Because only 10 crore people voted for us.
Gaurav Bhatia, Mr. Riju Dutta has a point here. And this is not about TMC versus BJP, Mr. Gaurav Bhatia. Somebody has to realize that if we do not vaccinate, if we do not have a proper vaccination policy, it's not Bengal or it's not Maharashtra which will suffer. It is the whole of India which will suffer. Which is why I want to ask this question, Mr. Gaurav Bhatia. Initially, the government was doing it centrally. Now, I don't see this government as being a government which would buckle under political pressure from opposition parties and just let go of or decentralize the entire system. It is just that you didn't want to take the blame, and therefore you decided not in February but in April to decentralize the system. Now, do you realize what is going to happen? There is going to be a Maharashtra versus Gujarat war in the international market. And in the international market, they will put two buyers right in front of them and then negotiate the prices, and whoever picks up the higher tab, and who's going to pay for it? Indian taxpayers are going to pay for it. I want to ask you, Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, is this a responsible thing to do? And it's a right question. Why should there be different kind of prices? 1,500, 900, 1,200, 150, 250. What's going on? Is this one India? GST हमको one country, one nation, one tax चाहिए, लेकिन हमको vaccination के prices फरक चाहिए, and they will be more expensive than foreign countries. Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, there has to be some sense in the policy that's been put out, and if your team of policy makers cannot make sound policies and strategies, somebody must be accountable and somebody's head must roll.
So, Navika, let me now answer your questions, but I'll come to the pricing part later. Let us first talk about the availability, because, I'm sure you'll give me some time. My friend Riju Dutta was saying there are only 2 vaccines. ये कहिए कि ये गर्व की बात है that there are 2 indigenous vaccines. This is commendable when we talk about the scientists. When we compare it to the world numbers, सर मत पकड़िए, अभी पकड़वाऊंगा, रुक के पहले बात सुनिए. मुझे पता है एक्सप्रेशन से भी बहुत कुछ बोला जाता है. And I'll come to the politics later. सिद्दीकुल्ला चौधरी ने वैक्सीन का ट्रक रोक लिया था, वो सब बाद में. लेकिन where is India placed today? After US and China, it is India that has seen the fastest vaccination drive. We have vaccinated 17.5 crore citizens. And frontline warriors as well as health workers and COVID warriors are also part of the citizenry. So please don't take them out, Navika, because you were saying that they have been vaccinated. We are rather proud that they were vaccinated first. What have we done so far? We have supported these 2 companies, Covishield as well as Covaxin. Around 4,600 crore payment has been made to them so that they can increase their production capacity. And let me tell you that the monthly production capacity of Covishield, which was 6 to 7 crores, with the additional funds that are being given, we are expecting it to go up to 10 crores. For Covaxin, this is the same vaccine, Navika, which Congress party chief ministers also had said that we don't want Covaxin. Shashi Tharoor, Jairam Ramesh had said that this vaccine is not safe for the citizens. But leaving the politics aside, now their production capacity is also being ramped up from 60 lakh to 1.5 crores. Now, what would it do? It would ensure that we have more production, more vaccine for the citizens. The question would be, will we be able to vaccinate the entire adult population within a very short span of time, say like 15 days or a month? See, yes, population is a dividend when it comes to resources, but during COVID time, to get that kind of production capacity, it will take some time. That is why we have allowed Sputnik to be imported. We have also said that all the manufacturers who have been given licenses by the FDA, the regulator of European countries, are also allowed to be imported. And with that also, we have also, spoken to Panacea, a company which is working...
Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, allow me to come in. Allow me to come in on this. Allow me to come in on this. The population that we are looking at wasn't just born yesterday or last month. This population of India has been there. The numbers may have increased. I mean, numbers increase on a daily basis. But I want to ask you, Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, yes, there was politics. Am I denying that? No, I'm not denying that.
I'm not even talking about
have political parties in the opposition... No, 1 minute. Allow me to ask. Allow me to ask, Gaurav Bhatia. Have political parties in the opposition changed their positions? Yes, they have. All right, given. But since when has the BJP been so impressed with Mr. Rahul Gandhi's intellect or what the opposition is saying? The opposition was also against demo. But you went ahead and did it because you had the conviction. Why was there no conviction or planning of increasing the production of these vaccines within India? Why was the Pfizer license allowed to go away? Why was the drug controller not asked to look at various other options and give fast-track clearances to some of the vaccines that were being used even since October, September last year, like Pfizer in the United States and in European countries? Why were we not already placing advance orders with these foreign vaccines? Why did we wait until now? Why did we allow our vaccination rate to come down? And why do we want a competition between states in global tenders to try and procure vaccination? I'm asking you. You are running the government at the center, and therefore you represent the entire country. Why worry about political criticism?
May I answer now? May I answer? So the most valid question that you asked, I will take it forward first. You've asked me why there would be 28 plus 1 negotiating entities. And very rightly asked by you, but do you remember, Navika, earlier, when the central government felt that the central government is to procure for every state, then these very political parties came out and they said that no, please decentralize the entire mechanism, allow the states also to procure. And after listening to the experts, the 50% procurement continues. This would be provided free of cost to the citizens through the state governments. Second, if they really want a policy change, as the politicians have demanded, why not write a letter to the Prime Minister, give an undertaking that in future we don't want decentralization and all can be procured by the center? Second, you asked me about, the system, how good and efficient it is. Tell me something, Navika. 17.5 crore Indians being vaccinated. There was a well-oiled system and a machinery. That is why we saw that the first dose has been given to more than 16 crore Indians. Around 1.5 to 2 crores. Second dose has also been given to the citizens. Third, about the Pfizer vaccine. There are limited cold storage capacity India has. Pfizer vaccine has to be kept below minus 25 degrees Celsius temperature. That was not available. So it was not a possibility for India to procure Pfizer. But yes, we are going to augment the capacity like Moderna, like Sputnik is being imported, and South Africa and India are two countries which are building pressure, according to the TRIPS agreement and in WTO, that these companies should waive their intellectual property rights so that we may give further sub-licenses to companies in India, and they can augment.
So let me get in Dr. Sumansi Raman. Dr. Sumansi Raman, many would say it's easier said than done. You know, it's all very well for, opposition parties to come together, for Arvind Kejriwal or Manish Sisodia or Mamta Banerjee or Sonia Gandhi to just criticize the centre. The fact is that there have been confusing signals that have come from them as well. So, now that they're writing this letter to the Prime Minister, why were they so anxious to have it decentralized in the first place now that they can't handle it? I want to put this on record to say that the centre and its team that is advising the Prime Minister, they should have thought this through, and the states should have thought about the politics before they actually completely waylaid the vaccination strategy for India. The blame will have to be shared.
Okay, Navika, first of all, I think that you have to understand that every country has been taking its decisions in a dynamic manner because this is a rapidly evolving situation. What was said in January is not the same as what was needed in April. The states did ask for decentralization. They asked for it in January and February because they felt that they should be allowed. Yes, I'm sorry, they asked for it in January and February. They did not ask for it in April. By April it was obvious. One second, sir. By April, it was obvious that the centre was simply not able to procure enough vaccines. And let's not get into the politics of state versus centre. What needs to be done now? 5 or 6 public sector vaccine manufacturing facilities are lying idle when the country is facing a desperate shortage of vaccines. I mean, how is this even justifiable? Bharat Biotech, Covaxin, the IP is shared with the government of India, and therefore, as per their understanding with ICMR, and there is nothing which prevents the government of India from ordering Bharat Biotech to support the manufacture of Covaxin at multiple centers. Yes, the Congress party,
Dr.
not only the Congress party. One second, let me finish.
You make it sound so simple. You make it sound so simple, but let me get in Mohan Das Pai. Mohan Das Pai has worked for a private company called Infosys.
You have given me only, let me complete. Please let me complete. 1 minute. There is no international ramification. There is no international ramification as far as Bharat Biotech is concerned. The IP is jointly owned by ICMR and Bharat Biotech. So there is no question of saying we will quote TRIPS and we will quote international agreements and we will talk about WTO.
That was
it is merely,
sir, I'll reply you.
1 second, sir. Yes, many parties, including the Congress party and various others, criticized Covaxin. The reason it was criticized was not that anybody had anything against Bharat Biotech, but because the phase 3 clinical data was not put out in the public domain, it was not peer reviewed before it was approved. Now states are so desperate to get their hands on some vaccine that they've said, please at least move Covaxin manufacturing to multiple facilities and make some vaccine available to us. The centre can do it if it wishes to.
Mohan Das Pai is smiling, and Mohan Das Pai, you worked with a private enterprise, and I want to ask you, do private enterprises increase their production capacities in line with the politics of the country? Because initially everybody said, and there were several newspaper articles, there were several statements made by various people. First they wanted differential pricing because Shashi Tharoor said that private hospitals, people can go, zyada paise dene do, private hospital mein lagana chahiye, give us an option. Now that the option is given, it's a bad idea. Then they said Covaxin is not something that should be used. Indians are being used as guinea pigs. Now they want, every production unit under the public sector to start manufacturing it when they are in the first place. People who were, 1 minute, Dr. Sumansi Raman. I know you have ambitions of becoming an anchor. I know you have ambitions of becoming an anchor, but tonight at least let me keep my job, and from tomorrow you can be an anchor. But yeah, अरे टाइम्स नाउ में एंकर बनना चाह रहे होंगे आप, कोई बात नहीं. मोहनदास भाई, you know, demand was not there. Everybody was shunning the vaccine, but they're saying the production should have been increased. You think that's, you know, makes commercial sense? I mean, after all, there is going to be some commerce in this.
You know, Navika, let me start by saying the government did a good job in February, March and April when they did this distribution for the health workers, other people plus 60 and plus 45. But they messed up when it came to 18 to 44. It's all right for the government of India to say now the states take over. But the government of India should have the sense to know there are 29 states, and if all of them go to the manufacturers, only 2, or maybe import, is going to be a mess. They should have suggested a canalizing agency for them to go to get it in India, and a canalizing agency to go to if they want to import. Because if 29 states go to import, it's going to be a mess. The government of India has unnecessarily abdicated its responsibility after doing so well in the first 3 months. And I think it's a very wrong thing to do. The government should call all the states and tell them, hey, this is what the supply is. This is what you can do. These are the suppliers. Here is an agency. Get together. Give your order. Let's have an equitable distribution. And the government of India is not very transparent. They should be transparent, Navika, to say, for the next 15 days, what are the supplies? Every 15 days, give the supply. Say the potential production in India for June, July, and August. Who is going to do what? And ask all the states to come together, ask the manufacturers to allocate to the states who paid the money, and say this is the schedule that is going to be given so they can give it to people. Now the state can fight with the center. All these people can play politics. But Navika, like you said in the beginning, who is suffering? You and I are suffering. People are standing there. People are not getting vaccines. They're getting very upset. They're fighting it out. There'll be violence. And 18 to 44 is a very volatile group. They waited patiently. Now they don't know when they're going to get it. It's a lack of transparency, lack of very bad policy. And I think the government of India should be more transparent, call all the states together, hammer out an agreement and work together, create a schedule for the next 15 days, give all the information. The people of this country will wait. We know there is a global shortage of vaccine. There is no vaccine available in the world. Pfizer can't send you 100 million tomorrow. It's not available. It can only be given the next 2 or 3 months. Let the government plan the schedule and tell everybody, this is the schedule, this is what you're going to get. The people will be patient. That is the biggest problem. Lack of transparency, lack of adequate information, and lack of communication. And the states and all these rotten politicians playing politics has only made the situation more volatile. Because each state thinks that they're God's own creature, they want to fight. And the government of India should not abdicate its responsibility, Navika. They are responsible to us as citizens of this country.
Absolutely. Is the government of India, is the government at the center abdicating its responsibility when it leaves not just opposition parties or states in the lurch, but people of India in the lurch? And Gaurav Bhatia, these are people who are normally very, very appreciative of the government, of the BJP, of the Prime Minister, but today they feel that they've been left in the lurch. And let me get in Dr. Rajiv Dasgupta. Dr. Rajiv Dasgupta, I want to ask you, should the accountability not be fixed? After all, this debacle was waiting to happen the minute you opened up the vaccination policy without having the supplies. The fact that there would be so many prices, the fact that we had no idea about where we were going to source our vaccinations from in the global market. Countries have paid money in advance ages ago. You know, at least 5-6 months ago, and booked their quantities. And here we are sitting trying to blame each other. Ke aapne tab kaha tha, humne ab kaha hai. You know, we were doing this and you were doing that. You know, all of that. I want to ask you, who were the people advising the Prime Minister? Who told the country transparently that this is not going to work and this is the way the planning has to be done? The technocrats also have to have their own accountability for letting down the country in planning this entire vaccination drive, which seems to be the only Suraksha Kavach that this country has. We have nothing else. There is no cure. There are no beds. There are no ICUs. There are no hospitals.
Well, on a lighter note, I'm an outsider and I can't really answer. on a more serious note, should there be accountability? Yes. And I believe the accountability should focus on this, on a very central ethical question, which is as follows, that from day one of the vaccine discussion, which is not the vaccine program, but taking you back to 2020, two guiding principles enunciated by the WHO and agreed by all the member states were vaccine equity and vaccine security. Now, these two being the central values around which the global program is working, and all countries are supposed to be working, these set of policies, and as Mr. Pai very succinctly laid out, these set of policies has actually pushed into states playing this entrepreneurial race against each other when the vaccine is out and out a public good. And this is a moral dilemma, an ethical dilemma that's unnecessarily come into the fore, and that's really not a nice thing, given that this is one country, given that these are all populations of states in India are equally valuable, and therefore I find it deeply problematic, morally speaking. Nevertheless, the other point is that it is not that the government doesn't have a game plan or there is no schedule. There is a schedule. The point is that, as Mr. Pai very eloquently put it out, the point is that that schedule is not transparent. On one hand, we know that, at least in the optimistic scenario, this is the forthcoming. Say, for example, 5 million Sputnik is going to be imported in June, 10 million in July. Similarly, the Serum Institute is to increase its monthly production to 10 crores doses next month, and the Covaxin up to 6 crores by August. So it is not that everything is operating in a vacuum, but everything is not operating with adequate transparency. And this dialogue should be able to set things right a lot, and even cool down the political tempers.
Well, it's not about cooling down political tempers, is it, Mr. Khilnani? It's not about political tempers at all. It is about how just insecure the people of India are today. You know, there is, theoretically speaking, every adult has the right to go and get vaccinated. States have opened up their vaccination centers, but try and get an appointment, you won't. And that is if you're in a city. I don't know what is happening in rural areas, because I don't know if any process of CoWIN is operating in the rural areas with internet connectivity being what it is. And we are seeing scenes coming in from villages from rural India about bodies floating in rivers. I want to ask you, Mr. Khilnani, have we really gone wrong, and can we waste a single minute in trying to get our vaccine policy back on track?
So thank you for having me here. I will restrict my comment to the technical and medical part of it. And truly speaking, we are in trouble. We are in trouble because we have been defying and denying community transmission, which has become a reality. We were sitting on a time bomb which has exploded, not only in the cities of Delhi, Bombay, Chennai. It is going to explode all over the country. As a clinician, I can tell you that what we thought that the elderly people were dying, or people who had comorbidity who were dying. Today, I see 25 years old, young, healthy, thin male dying in my ICU, and that is the trouble. Now, the virus has changed its character, but the good thing is that vaccine is effective against majority of viruses except the Brazil viruses. So therefore, vaccine continues to be the only weapon with us for the protection. We all know that so many people like doctors and other healthcare workers which have been vaccinated but have got infection in a large number, be it All India Institute, be it Gangaram Hospital, be it my hospital. But the infections have been less severe, the mortality has been very occasional. So what I'm trying to say is that vaccine is effective. And as a doctor, my take would be get vaccine from anywhere from the planet. Get it from US, get it from Russia, get it from anywhere. Let there not be a fight between the politicians and parties. This is absolutely atrocious. This is the time to come across.
This
is
is
the time to
the
come
cry
across.
coming from every single medical practitioner, every single supporter or non-supporter of political parties, every single Indian. And Gaurav Bhatia, our vaccination rate on that graph is dipping, something that we cannot allow, because it's criminal to have the vaccination rate dipping at a time when our infection rate is at such a high. Gaurav Bhatia, can we at least implore you, because one more death due to COVID, due to lack of vaccination or availability of any of the medical equipment, beds, ICUs, is not on the BJP, on the TMC, on the Congress, on the Samajwadi Party. It is on the soul of India. Our community feeling, our conscience as a joint population is what is going to bear the burden of these lives that we are losing. Mr. Gaurav Bhatia, can you please take back the voice of the people to your own party, to the decision makers, not to differentiate between the center and the states? Because every Indian, whether living in Goa, in Kerala, in Tamil Nadu, or in Delhi, or Madhya Pradesh, or Chhattisgarh, is actually at the end of the day an Indian. Mr. Gaurav Bhatia. Yes, Mr. Gaurav Bhatia.
Navika, every decision that is taken by the Prime Minister is after he has listened to the experts, and it is according to their advice. Second, this is a government which will not buckle under pressure. Our priority remains saving human lives. And I must say that if in future there is a decision to be taken in relation to procuring these vaccines in a different way, the Prime Minister and the central government will consider. And I bow down to what the doctors have said, what Mr. Pai has said. But the politics should stop, even from the opposition parties. And let me rebut. Our priority right now remains obtaining the vaccines, and I have already told you how we are increasing the indigenous production capacity. We are trying to import more vaccines. But this is a counter, and you must ask this to the opposition parties also. On 18th of April, what was written? It was written that expand the category to be vaccinated. Written by whom? 18th April, Manmohan Singh. Sonia Gandhi on 12th April wrote what? Please listen to me. I know you'll have to be patient. I heard you. I'm talking about a very serious subject. You can't change the goalpost midway. First you demand something and then you say, no, center will do. So listen to this. 12th April, Sonia Gandhi says, categories eligible for vaccination should be expanded. Last but not the least, 8th April letter by Rahul Gandhi. And he says, give state governments a greater say in vaccine procurement and distribution. So I'm just citing you an example. The strategy of the central
Gaurav Bhatia, what you are raising is pertinent. What you are raising is pertinent, but let's forget politics because it is not important. After all, Congress Mukt Bharat आपका नारा है. तो Congress Mukt अपनी decision making कर दीजिए. How does it matter what Sonia Gandhi wrote, what Rahul Gandhi wrote? Otherwise, they would have been a popular party winning several states. Sorry. नहीं, मैं सब समझ गई और देश की जनता भी सब समझ गई. लोगों का एक नहीं, लोग गुहार लगा रहे हैं इस वक्त सिर्फ एक गौरव भाटिया. आप जो कह रहे हैं सत्य वचन, लेकिन इस वक्त पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज, पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स की मत पूरी बात आपकी सुन ली और समझ भी ली गौरव भाटिया. All we are saying is I'm running out of time, Mr. Gaurav Bhatia. Okay, 30 seconds to you.
Yes, thank you. I am not talking only about politics by opposition parties. There are chief ministers in place, constitutional position holders. They are also equal stakeholders. And when they fail, they are failing the people of that state, because you know that there is a responsibility attached even to a chief minister. And therefore, without politicizing, I will say everyone needs to work hand in hand rather than trying to defeat.
Riju Dutta, Can you assure that as a stakeholder, opposition parties will stand shoulder to save lives of Indians? Yes or no?
Ma'am, what option do we have? But my question to Gaurav Bhatia ji is, and Navika ji, you are also a part of it, because how long will the social media like Twitter and Facebook replace the health structure?
This is the seriousness on the discussion.
They need to
He
take
gets in
account
social media.
Instead
This is the way we have to debate a serious issue.
We are once again being derailed into politics, and politics is not going to give us the answer. Ladies and gentlemen, I think the voice of the people and the pressure of the people is the only thing that we will need to keep up, because politics is their business. Our business will have to be on concentrating on saving lives. That's what it all boils down to. We have to save lives, and we have to have a central procurement policy for vaccinations, which is the only way to save lives and to get that graph of vaccination rates up. Thank you very much to my panelists for joining me on this debate. A very heart-rending story coming up on the other side, the sites in rural India. That debate on the other side.